pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Balknight, would you mind praying for us?
Absolutely. God, you're amazing. We love you, Lord. Thank you for being so good to us here. God, we ask for your wisdom, for your understanding. God, help us to apply that as a board here to District 3. Thank you for the administration, for the staff, for the kids here, all the people represented this evening. God, we love you. We need you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Fantastic. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the actual consent of the agenda. We'll start with the approval of the agenda. There's one request that I've received to amend it already under Section 7 reports, item C, numbers 2 and 3. We do not have a participant this evening because of some health issues. So with if someone would entertain the motion to go ahead and amend that to remove items 2 and 3. We have a motion from Mr. Watt.
Second.
Second from Mr. Holbrook. Any discussion? None. All in favor? Unanimous. So we'll strike those 2 items.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
We have a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Now we'll vote again. All in favor? So be it. Unanimous. The approval of the minutes. Did everyone have a chance to take a look at those? Any corrections or issues that need to be addressed? None. I
Make a motion.
have a motion from Mr. Holbrook to accept as approved and a second from Ms. Arnold. All in favor? Unanimous. Here comes the good part. We get to go to the commendations now.
I always like to see a room full of students, teachers, and parents. And so that's what we have tonight to recognize some accomplishments in our district. The first one we have to recognize is Rich, if she will come up. Come on up. And I would also like to ask Mr. Long to come up. I'm thinking this is your student, correct? Third place, South Carolina State Business Plan Competition. Do you want to tell us anything about it? You didn't know you were going to have to speak, did you? Well, we're proud of you, and thank you for coming tonight so that we can recognize you. Mr. McCullough is going to take a picture. All right, our next staff member we would like to recognize is Sherry Holbrook. Sherry has been the Beta Club sponsor at Crescent High School for 32 years and has done a phenomenal job. We were doing some research, and Anderson School District 3 has had a high school Beta Club for 85 years. Now, Crescent is not 85 years old, so that goes back to before my time, believe it or not, Old Iva High School, and I think there was a Star High School at the time. But we want to recognize Sherry and thank her for her 32 years as a Beta Club sponsor. And I'm going to go ahead and read something while Sherry's up here because it's going to go into our next recognition. You didn't make us know I was going to make you stand up here so long, did you? But about 2 years ago, maybe, Sherry and I were having a conversation, and she said, what are the chances that we could have a Beta Club at all of our elementary schools? Our high school students are losing out on some opportunities when they get to high school because they didn't have that opportunity. And so she spearheaded the effort to get a Beta Club at all of our elementary schools and to restart the one at Star Iva Middle School. And some of you may have been at that initial induction ceremony. How many of you in your room were here? I was amazed at the number of parents and students that showed up. And so as a result of that, I received this letter that I wanted to read to you. It says, Ms. Hipp, It is my pleasure to congratulate Anderson School District 3 on achieving the 2023-24 National Beta District of Distinction status. National Beta District of Distinction is awarded to school districts who induct qualifying students in all eligible grades, 4th through 12th, within each school. This prestigious honor is a true indication of your dedication to students who lead, serve, and achieve. So thank you all for your efforts with that. Many of you in this room helped start that, and we're going to honor you. Thank you, Ms. Holbrook, for everything you have done and continue to do to make our Beta Club strong. So let's take a picture with Ms. Holbrook. I will show you that the district will be awarding the schools, but the district as a whole got this award recognizing us as a district of distinction. So we'll probably display it down here somewhere as that recognition. And then there are plaques for each school. So what I want to do is call each school up here, and then I'm going to ask your sponsor, actually I'm going to ask you students to introduce yourselves and tell us I think many of you are officers in your Beta Club. And so we'll take a minute to do that, and we'll snap a picture. I'm starting in the order of the plaques, so there's no favoritism here other than the way they're stacked. And so the first school I have is Star Iva Middle School. So if the students and the sponsors will come up. Let's go ahead and move over here. All right, and if you will tell us your name.
She's actually our SGA president. She might not say that, but she's our school council president. We didn't get officers last year. We're going to work on it this year.
Well, I didn't recognize you without your glasses.
Okay, our next school is Iva Elementary. If you all will come up. We'll go ahead and move over, Mr. Owens. Okay, and who do we have with us? I'm not going to rotate. You are our, what grade are you in, fifth? Oh, that's right, that's right. I feel your
Get there.
Flat Rock Elementary School. All right, Ms. Dunn, if you will tell us who we have here.
This is Alex Singleton and Asa Crawford and someone big nephew. Got two nephews in my room, so nephew, look, Matthew Norris. Matthew is one of our Beta Club officers.
Okay, thank y'all for being with us. Crescent High School.
I'm Annalisa McCall, and I am Crescent High School's Beta Club president.
Last but not least, Star Elementary School. Who do we have here?
We have Sophie McAllister and Savannah Sanders.
They were both co-vice presidents.
Great job. And let me say, while you all are here, because you're welcome to come back next month, but some of the very people in this room are why I'm so excited about our test scores that are embargoed right now. But after next week, we're going to be able to talk about them, and you all have done a phenomenal job, and you're a part of that. So Beta Club, one of the pillars of it is achievement. Service is another one, but that's a key point. So I appreciate you, and I want to go ahead and tell you how proud I am of what our district is doing in all phases. We have two other people to recognize tonight, and those are two of our board members who have achieved a certain status. Our board members have trainings in the Boardmanship Institute, and they get points for every level. There's actually 6 levels of the training program, and we have 2 that have achieved level 5, which is 300 cumulative points. And so I have a pin for them and then a certificate. And I will tell you, I told you there's 6 levels. The highest level is level 6. And that, when you achieve that, you're actually recognized at the state convention. So we are proud of Mr. Trip Baltnight for achieving level 5. And Mr. Danny Owens for achieving level 5. Thank you. So we get a picture of y'all. I want to thank you all for being at the meeting tonight. You're welcome to stay for the other business, but if you would like to be excused, this is the appropriate time for you to step out, but don't feel like you have to go.
I'll be right back.
Thank you so much for being here.
Before I get into the current year's general fund status, kind of want to give you a brief overview of what it's looking like we're going to wrap up in FY 23-24 in the general fund. We still have some things to wrap up, a little bit more money to come in, a few more things to pay out. But right now, it's looking like we should settle in right around with $1 million in excess funds in general fund, with our revenues exceeding our expenditures. Next month, we'll have that number pretty well nailed down. And at that point, we'll come to you seeking approval for transferring those excess funds to a building fund to be used for projects to be named later, to be approved later. And again, reiterating that when I say excess, that's above and beyond the 25% of our 25% fund balance as it relates to the FY 24-25 budget. So doing that, part of the reasoning, of course, is to utilize that money for projects as we see fit, or save for projects down the road that we may deem a priority, but also in a sense offering us a little bit of protection from unfunded mandates at the state level. I know that's something we've discussed for years. We've seen it in the past several years with the paid parental leave, which I think we all agree is a good thing, but we had no say and no funding came along with that. That's something we had to fund here locally, and to a much lesser extent is some of these this school mapping, this most recent budget year, something that we were forced to do by the state, but no funding was attached to it. So, and we've known the past couple of years the state's been looking a lot more closely at our unreserved fund balance, and this kind of protects us from that standpoint. And this past budget year, Proviso 1.3G got passed, so now, starting this month, we're having to actually report to the state every single month what our fund balance is. So they are looking at it very closely, and you can rest assured that they are going to factor that into decisions going forward in their budget. So kind of with that in mind, that's something we'll be looking at and factoring into what we come to you with next month. But all in all, we're expecting to be somewhere in the $1 million ballpark. So taking a look at the current year.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yeah,
could, I got just one quick question right there.
Absolutely, yes,
Based on what you just said,
yes.
what is your feeling? Do you have any input? Do you feel like the districts that are healthy, that are hitting that target number, they're going to try to penalize us down the road? Why are they doing that?
I think that's justification for areas, I guess, for not providing funding if there's any kind of gray area. That's just an easy thing to point to. Districts have this much money in reserves. Let's let them foot the bill instead of the state. So I think it factors into a lot of decisions they make, and I think they've heard from a lot of districts over the past couple of years that these monies are they do have designations, and this is part of that process. So, but I think by them passing this proviso, I think this is them saying, making it official that they're looking at it and they're monitoring it, and they will be using that when making decisions come the spring. Yes, sir.
If we put it over a building fund, would they be looking at that too?
So we had some representatives from the school business officials meet with one of the representatives on, I believe it was on Senate Finance. They met with them, and they said they are strictly looking at general fund, unassigned fund balance.
Can we slide some of that over and have it, much we could use some?
I mean, yes, it would take a board vote, yes, but we could move it there, and then if we got in a pinch, it can always be reverted back with.
I think the information that you're giving us got several of us tracking along the same ideas. Mr. Watt, I believe, may have had a question before. I'll let him ask before I ask mine.
Yes.
Have some too.
Yeah, I may be mistaken, but aren't we mandated to the 25%?
We're not mandated by the state level. That's just.
That's our mandate, right?
That's what we aim to
Okay.
keep.
But the state does, they got a magic figure in there somewhere
Yeah, if you get less than like a month,
That's
you
right.
get taken over.
Yeah, they can come, so I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword here.
Yes.
It may behoove us, the accountants, if I'm not mistaken, that, the, keep us at, suggest it's an 18% minimum to be at a healthy place, and that's where the state looks at, is that 18%, right?
That 18%, or 2 months, roughly 2 months worth of fund balance, that's a standard by GFOA, which is like a state, universal, or nationwide government finance officers association. That's a standard they set as a general rule of thumb. So and then our auditors, of course, they like to see it be on the higher end just for safeguards. But again, they have no dog in the fight when it comes to the game of state budgeting and how those decisions get made as well. So there's varying degrees of what people think is prudent.
Would it behoove us to consider reducing our general fund balance, knowing that we have this cushion elsewhere?
It could be, it could benefit us for sure.
It was initially raised to 25 because we being good stewards and how the state was looking at things and dealing with, now that the state's backtracking on what they've done in the past, it might behoove us to at least consider
Right.
reducing that, what
Good
would,
18 or 20.
That could
19
be
or 20.
That could be something to look at. And I think some of the districts that they really keyed in on is there may have been some districts who've been saving for a building program to build a school and just left it in their general fund balance. So they got these astronomical percentages. But because there's no designation or assignment to it from the state's perspective, the legislature's perspective, that just looks like money they're just sitting on. So this is kind of sticking a tag to it so that so it doesn't appear in that way that we're just sitting on money and not putting it to use and not having it used against us for being prudent.
If we do so, I'd like to see the board approval before we spend it.
Absolutely. And then that's the practice we've done when we brought things to you. If we want it tied to a project, we had votes on the projects tied to it. And if there's no project tied to it, it's awaiting a board approval.
Ms. Arnold?
What's that threshold? Is it just any amount when you go to transfer it that's for board approval?
Well, this is just kind of in lines with the process that we established several years ago, just to establish that building fund to help supplement our building program is how it began, just for any excess general funds. And this is just more in lines with that. Now, as far as a dollar threshold, we didn't set one for this procedure. We really just set it for an annual checkup, if you will, is a way of looking at it. If we have excess funds and we have met our 25% threshold, then we may ask for a transfer.
Okay, is this normal? Do we normally bring in this type of money, like that we're unforeseen, or we're $1 million ahead? I love being ahead.
Right.
But is this normal, or is this an anomaly?
No, and for the past several years, we've been fortunate enough to have some good years, a lot of it being on the property tax side, a few years where we've had enrollment growth that we hadn't projected, that's part of it. Again, we're seeing interest rates come in a lot higher than they've ever been, and capitalizing on that, but not wanting to yo-yo that budget, if you will, going up and down a whole lot with that. So there's been some things that's come out of the past couple of years that's led to that, and we've seen that consistently over the past 2 or 3 years. But prior to these higher years, we've normally been below $1 million, and I would expect to kind of revert back to that once things settle down a little bit.
Would you say $1 million's the highest in the last 5 years?
No, it's not.
It's not, we've always been over.
We've had more, and we've done transfers in the past as well, so yes.
But you're saying the likelihood of this happening in the future, you're not expecting this?
Barring any big growth in enrollment or any industry moving in, I would think I would think we'd probably settle down, getting closer, starting to move back closer to break even. But again, things could happen mid-year that we didn't foresee, just like they have the past couple of years, to change that.
What was it, 2 or 3 million we took out when we went flat rock?
Ooh, I'd have to get back to you on that one. It was a good chunk, and you can see a steady increase in the fund balance percentage since then, because there was a conscientious effort to get that built back up after borrowing from that. So,
Did you have any more questions, Ms. Arnold?
No, sir, not right now.
Any other questions regarding, I'm going to ask one more, I think. I don't know that tonight's the night to move on anything, but if 20%, if a motion was made at some point to reduce that to a 20% fund balance, that's still safe operating for us, do you think?
I think so.
And of course, that can be amended next year. I mean, any time that can be amended.
Right. Yeah, that was something we
And it would,
evaluate back again.
and it would take a motion from someone on the board to do that in a second, the whole process. But a month to sit on that and think about it might
But
be.
if we needed it, we could get it, couldn't we?
Yes, and I think that works great, assuming you have that balance with, for years ago, stored aside. But absent that, I recommend 25, but of
Yes.
course, everything.
Any other questions regarding the general fund?
Just real briefly on the current year, I know we were very early, in just 1 month in, but revenues exceeding expenditures for the month of July, $319,759. You know, not a lot to base off of, this early in the year, but it's about where we expect to be, where we've been in the past years. So that, within a couple $1,000 last year, $450,000 for that. So we're probably where we expect to be. The only revenues that we've seen coming in this one year is our state aid and classrooms and stuff, and then, funding from the state for insurance and things of that nature. The only expenditure side, the only thing, the main thing going out is why, which is like year-round utilities, pay like that, and then just year to get into the year, property casualty insurance, this time of year, so just things like that, getting started with usually, and then utilities is what, but, really next one is like, get into flow of things, get all of our employees payroll, underway here in the month of August. But right now, we're looking like, in a pretty good spot where we expect to be. And really, this is probably our last month, you can see this in the positive numbers, you can see history shows us, from August to about December, we'll have some red numbers, some negative, where we're trending down just in the cash flow, like things from, property taxes, not just flowing in until December, when we see the updates then, but, we'll continue to monitor everything, keep it up to date,
All the pay raises, did they go in July?
Year-round employees, they did, the teachers and the staff who work 205 days or less will be in August. But the teachers, those staff did receive checks in July, but that was for 5 years. Max. The pay increase.
So it'd be on this coming,
Right.
okay. Oh, it's not been this past Friday, okay, I didn't even know it.
Sales tax, so we've had 2 collections since we last met, the month of June, we received an allocation of $263,553.84, and the month of July, we received an allocation of $272,155.09. So just for
Here's me.
Year prior, we've seen a slight uptick.
Not the fire
Really for the past 2 years, slight uptick in the months of June, July.
Oh,
So
my
it
God.
continues to grow for us, and continue to do well for us there. And with June's collection, we completed FY '24's sales tax collection. We ended up around 3% increase from FY '23 to FY '24. So this is on a steady growth, not quite the growth we saw for 2022 and 2023.
Wasn't free money out there either.
Nonetheless,
I don't believe so. Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Appreciate your time. Operations report, Dr. Nixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a very busy summer, and very proud of the things that we're able to get accomplished. So I'd just like to share some of those going right direction. First, for Crescent High School, I'd mentioned the HVAC project where we replaced 33 units there at Crescent High School. Project went relatively smoothly, got all of those placed. We have everything done with that project with the exception of the checks and balances. Those units will be running for several more weeks, and they'll come in and make sure that they're working with our integrated system at Crescent High School. So had a teacher grab me in the hallway, and she says, I can't really tell a difference in my classroom being warmer or colder, she said, but it's a lot quieter. And she said that was very, very helpful. So these units are much more efficient. They run much quieter, have better dehumidification cycles to them. All around, great leap forward for Crescent High School with the replacement of those 33 units. The roofing at Crescent High School, that went very, very smoothly. You can see the picture there. I got to say, there are very few campuses in the world, I think, that has as pretty a views off the roofs as Crescent High School. So that's a modified bitumen roof. We replaced 10,600 squares there. Leaks, we've had some pretty substantial rain since then. We've not had any issues. Bourne also credited us, the contractor that won that contract. Some of their supplies and some of their work came in cheaper than expected, and they credited us back almost $20,000 to that project. That being said, in addition to the base bid on that, we were able to satisfy resealing the roof that's closest to 81 at Crescent High School. That's the last and the oldest roof that's left at Crescent High School. We had some leaks around the perimeter, and they were able to reseal and do some patchwork on those to get us by for another year. Great project, went very, very well. Cafeteria wiring, I know that doesn't sound like a big ticket, but whenever we've got an aging building, we're running out of power in that building, so finding the amperage that was needed, that required a lot of creative work from our crew. They figured it out, and they got that oven installed. And then finally, the fencing that we'll talk about, because that was an extension of the grant, the security grant that was written. Sims, a lot of stuff going on at Sims this summer. You can see the encapsulation from OAC whenever they did the asbestos abatement in those pictures. That was a heck of a project, but something I'm very, very proud that the board got behind, and that we can say that areas that our kids are in every day, we removed a tremendous amount of asbestos there. The ceiling, luckily, whenever we got it off, it was a plaster type ceiling. It took paint very, very well. In addition to the LED lights, whenever you go in there, it is so much brighter and so much cleaner looking than it was before we were able to do that. The CPAW, I did want to mention that. Newbern Construction worked with that project, also worked with Mr. McCullough in that design and installing that as somewhat of a sound acoustical tile that's decorative as well. So I wanted to put that up there. I think that looks fantastic. The last piece at the middle school, besides the security grant, was the parking lot. Earth Materials got the bid on that, and they fixed entranceway, exits, potholes in the car rider line, and then that gigantic crater that was in the bus parking lot in front of there. So very, very proud of that. Had a lot of positive comments already from folks that dropped their kids off and picked their kids up, saying how much nicer and smoother it is getting in and out of Star Island Middle School. Flat Rock Elementary School, the fencing, roof repairs, that is a metal roof, and we're blessed to have that there, but the boots around any kind of penetration in a roof and the seams have to receive attention periodically. We did that this summer where all those were resealed. There were some issues where we were having some leaks around those, so we've done that, and as of the rains that we've recently had, those have been taken care of. Star Elementary School, the fencing, swings, plumbing rework of 2 restrooms. You can see where the floor had to be cut up and the tile had to be taken up. These are problem areas that we were constantly having to jet and disrupt instruction for, so we were able to cut that concrete up, replace all those existing lines, and hopefully, as of right now, we've not had any issues with those classrooms. Had to replace the flooring in those classrooms, of course, where it was taken up, and then 2 additional classrooms that had carpet that had pretty much met its life. We replaced that with VCT as well. So, and the swings I wanted to mention, you can see the pictures there. All 3 of the principals have checked in. They said that that's the first thing the kids run to when they get out on the playground. So I appreciate the board putting that in with the other project that we did at Star Elementary School. That means that all 3 of our elementary schools have comparable swing sets and playground areas on their playgrounds. I was really, really happy to get those things in over the summer. That one was touch and go up to the week of. Ive Elementary School, as I mentioned before, they received the swings. And then finally, the district office, the flooring in the bus office, that was carpeted. Y'all remember from board meetings, and the traffic of having 42 drivers and assistants coming in and out of there every day, it was starting to show wear very quickly. They use that as one of their areas where they eat and things like that too. So replacing that with LVT, and very similar to the product that we have up in this office, they've been very appreciative of that. And then one last safety and security thing that we were able to put in place, the district office down there, once you're buzzed into the front office, you can see the glass that was put up in front of Miss Gentry, so no one has direct access to her. And there's also another wall that has been built with a door there. So anybody that comes in can state their business, but they don't have access to the rest of the building, and she's behind a much more secure situation. That's the last place in our district that was not like that, so I'm happy to say that every building in our district now has that same point of entry and control point of entry. The final thing was a security grant. As you remember, that was $266,000+ that were awarded to us. All of those fencing projects are completed. Additional fencing, you can see that center picture, that's where it was added at Crescent High School, that gives some, separates our track area with some of the other areas whenever we have multiple. If you've been there on a day whenever we had track going, baseball going, it gets very, very hectic, and it was very, very easy for crowds to mingle together. So that's there for crowd control. We're also looking at one other area behind the press box as a potential to add some additional security fencing there. But those projects went very, very smoothly, and I'm very, very happy that we have all those playgrounds everywhere behind where we have students go out on a daily basis are now behind fencing. Last piece of the fencing is we're doing a uniform lock system where we have a master lock that'll be our blue locks, padlocks for the district, and then there'll be designated lock colors for each location. Each teacher, of course, they have their key card and they have their ID on them, and then they will have a gate key. So in the event that the building is compromised or a fire or fumed, whatever, they'll be able to go to multiple gates that are strategically placed around the perimeter fencing and leave those areas. Awaiting equipment on the indoor keying to turn all of our classroom doors into storefront locks. And the grant was written specifically for those 2 things, but a third tier of the grant was for communications, and I got permission from the State Department to use the excess funds that we had to work on radio repeaters, and those are at Star Ive Middle School, already installed there. Ive Elementary School, we're waiting on the equipment. When you took a radio to the back portion of where kids go, the service there was a little bit broken up sometimes, depending on the weather and humidity. You couldn't hear with the radios. So those repeaters were replaced at those 2 schools as well. So hopefully we'll wrap that up pretty soon as Cook and Boardman gets us all those cylinders and all those locks to get the keying project completed. Having said that, I would like to mention to you guys as well, I spoke with Chief Bench and working on September the 13th for our school safety tours. So if y'all would put that as a place mark on your calendars, once we get closer to that point, someone from the district office will send you more information about that. But it's where we go through and we walk and we look at all the schools, all EMS, emergency response crews, they'll all come to that, and all the fire chiefs from each fire chief or their designee will come to that tour as well. So anybody have any questions about the operations report?
Any questions for Dr. Nixon?
Didn't we have a tree just to fall during school the other day?
We did. We had a Bradford pear, which I love Bradford pears. I always think that they're beautiful, and it got snapped off in the wind that we had. And we're actually going to take the rest of the tree down, and we're going to grind that stump in that area. That little courtyard area is oftentimes used by our special needs students down that special needs hallway. And I know, Ms. Burton, they have some activities out there and have some equipment that's to them, so we're just going to take it completely down.
Well, good thing we didn't have kids out there when it fell.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. God protected us on that one, so for sure.
I don't have a question, just a comment. I was over at the middle school during registration, and the gym looks phenomenal. The lighting in there, I mean, it's made a huge difference. So thank you for leading all those initiatives and everybody that had part in that, because it really looks good. All of the schools, y'all have been busy. I mean, this is,
Well, I'd love to take that opportunity to say, Jim Bones Gerard, Blake Whitfield, and Brent Powell are amazing. Worked in a lot of districts, and I hear people say, put in a work order, they're over there. I talked to Bones this morning, he said they had one work order. One work order for the entire district with 3 guys doing it. So if you get a chance to pat them on the back, some places in education, you don't know if you're getting your bang for your buck. I can say the maintenance crew in Anderson School District 3, we are getting our bang for our buck. Those guys are doing a phenomenal job. And honestly, from my standpoint, I wouldn't dare bid off the amount that we did in a summer without those 3 guys. It would be very, very cumbersome, almost impossible with the staff that we have to do it if we didn't have those 3 guys. So,
is outstanding.
well, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nixon.
You're welcome.
Next item is Superintendent's Report.
And I will ask Dr. Laura Beth Smith to come up and talk about our great STEAM camp.
I told someone today that I was presenting on STEAM Camp for the 7th year. We started this camp in 2017, with the exception of the year 2020. We've had this camp for 7 years. And this means a lot to our district. I'd like to thank Dr. Nixon. He started this in wrote the grant in 2016. We had our first camp in 2017. And this has all been funded by Bosch from the beginning. So I got a lot of pictures to show you guys because I think this tells the story right here. Our theme this year was I Spy. Those are the dates. We had 9 teachers, and I'd also like to say that we have pretty much kept the same teachers for the last 7 years. We've added a few things along the way, but we pretty much keep the same teachers. We invited 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th graders. I would like to say there were some other grades there because we have yet to be able to say no to any student that wants to come. The other day I was walking out of Star Ivy Middle School, and there just happened to be a girl that walked beside me and told me, I'm coming to STEAM camp again next year. She might be in the 8th grade. This year we also had a student, I walked out to my car and realized she was getting in a car, and I looked at her, I said, you're driving? She said, yes, ma'am. So she's still coming to STEAM camp. She drives herself to STEAM camp. She's on about year 10. That's okay. Our experiments we conducted in the science lab, our media productions lab, we have robotics, engineering, art, PE, and music classes. And every year we have to come up with a new theme. So this year we had all different, everything was new and everything was great. And when I tell you this was the best STEAM camp we've ever had, this was the best STEAM camp we've ever had. And I will continue to tell you that year after year because we get better and we have more ideas, we have more people that want to get involved, and we have more students that want to be involved, and we have those that keep wanting to come back. We had 2 field trips, Clemson Planetarium and Sadler's Creek. We had not been to the planetarium in the last few years. They didn't have anyone to be able to work during the summer, but this year they worked it out. They charge us a small fee now, and it's not free anymore, but it's a small fee, so they're able to have the camp even during the summer. And this is great because we divide our students up, and so half of them see the planetarium, and then the other half we take on a tour, and then we switch out. So our students get a tour of Clemson University, and they also get to experience the planetarium. And there we are. We went to Clemson. There's our picture after our tour. It was quite warm that day, as you can imagine, in June, but that's okay. And that's an actual picture that someone took while they were in the planetarium. You walk in, it's completely dark. They only hold 40 students at one time. It is ADA accessible, so you could have a couple of students that would need to sit in those areas. But it's very accessible. It's in one of the, as kids say, cooler areas of Clemson University. And they're able to do that. And then, like I said, we take a tour. So this year, we went back and we asked Miss Jessica Davis Simpson, never can remember her last name, Jessica Davis Simpson. She came and she brought her 4-H group. And we had several different locations and stations for the students to go to. Half of these students had never been to Hartwell Lake. They made it a point, can we please take our picture at the lake today? So that's one of our pictures. They were all in groups, but they had never been to Hartwell Lake. Sadler's Creek was like foreign to them. They had never been over there. So that was really neat. And there were several different stations, and they went on a nature walk, and we learned a lot of really neat things. It was definitely a cool experience, and we'll definitely do that again. Partnerships. So Dr. Nixon started this in 2016. Our first camp was in 2017, with the exception of the year 2020. We've had this camp for 7 years. This year, or this past year, the grant I wrote was for $21,500. It was fully funded. We partnered with Clemson University Extension Campus with Jessica Simpson. Just to add a plug, this is no cost to students. Breakfast and lunch was served every day. We had snacks. We had an ice cream party one afternoon. We make sure that we feed these kids and we feed them well because they are active. We are busy. Also, the field trips, bus transportation was provided by the grant. Definitely like to put a plug in for our cafeteria staff, Miss Meredith at Crescent High School. She is fantastic to work with. She makes sure those kids are fed. She takes really, really good care of us. Our bus transportation, we appreciate them. They took us on both of the field trips. Mr. Walker, he's a great man. He does a great job. So like to give a little plug for those groups. This was our little theme this year. Last year, I attended an event where everyone that received the grant talked about the grant, and Bosch really wanted to emphasize the idea that they wanted us to come up with ideas for sustainable energy. And so our theme was I Spy, but we came up with this graphic to show how we were going to use all the areas of recycling and developing new ways. And so that's part of some of our science labs and our media production you'll see in just a minute. Science and STEAM, our STEAM lab, they created all kind of things. One of the things, they pureed beets, and then yes, it was awful. They pureed beets with vinegar, and then they painted with it. And all those pictures, it's created with different types of vegetables. It was awful. But they had a fantastic time. This activity, they had to create a prosthetic leg. They wrote a story. It's based off an elephant that needed a prosthetic leg. That was in media productions class. Engineering and STEAM, this is where they created their own, they coded spearbots and drones, and then they maneuver through obstacle courses. This girl in the middle, the very first day, I got to Crescent High School at 7 a.m. She was already waiting on me. And I said, Lily, why are you already here? It's only 7 o'clock. I said, did your mom have to go to work and she dropped you off early? She said, no. I said, well, it doesn't start till 8 o'clock. She said, this is the funnest day of my whole summer. I couldn't wait to get here. So that's Lily right there with that smiling face. This was the funnest day of her whole summer. So I can sit down. She tells the story right there. Arts and STEM and music and STEM. This year we purchased violins for the students to play, and Mr. Spear, he taught the students over the course of 5 days how to play a violin. I was very impressed by that. The art class, they took magazine papers, rolled them up, and then each created a bowl. So that was pretty neat too. And there's just some random pictures of everything that went on. I could have taken pictures all day long. Math and STEM, we thought this was really, we feel like this is an important part of this. Just learning how to use math every day, especially out at Sadler's Creek. They did all types of experiments out there. Robotics classes, they use math to create obstacle courses. We tried to incorporate as much as we could in every class. And then let's play I Spy STEAM Camp. Nope, not mine. I would like to say I've already received an email from Bosch inviting us to come and talk about next year. That's coming up next month, so I know that they're already thinking and already talking about how they can help us fund this for next year. We already have our theme for next year, and we already have the dates. Over the weekend, I sent everyone, I said, I know none of you are planning a vacation already or are even thinking about next summer yet, but I want you to know these are the dates. I sent them all calendar invites, and every single one of them has already accepted my calendar invite for next summer.
Fantastic.
So I do appreciate the opportunity to come and speak on this for the 7th year. This absolutely excites me. This is the best thing I get to talk about.
Thank you. That was a lot of extra work securing those funds, but thank you for doing that, and you're always there and very organized, and that, you know, when you drop my daughter off there, see you, and it's not often that you see folks from the district there running stuff like that, so thank you. We do appreciate it.
It might be the funnest day of my summer, too.
Good.
Well, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments, or? Well, fantastic. Thank you very much. Ms. Hipp?
All right, Dr. Smith gets to talk about the fun stuff, and then I get to talk about new legislation, but I know you've heard some of this, and so I just wanted to draw your attention to these are the policies, or I won't say policies, or these are the rules in our student handbooks already about cell phones. And for the middle and high school, that didn't change from last year's handbook. At Crescent, they've been able to have their cell phones out during lunch, but they're supposed to be up the rest of the day. No earbuds or anything like that. At Star Iva, this is the second year where cell phones are supposed to be put up all day long during the school day. And so I just wanted you to know we're already close to the state law. I did put an appendix items there that shows you the state survey of cell phone use that the teachers and some other school folks filled out. And I also put you a policy development statement. Dr. Kelly from Anderson 5 is on that committee, and she shared that with me. They are working with the state board now to write the policy that we will adopt our policy based on. And they expect that to come out in the next couple of months. We do, the more stringent policy came out, and I don't remember if it's the House or the Senate version, but it will, if things go as expected, when that policy is actually finalized, I think our high school students will have to have their phones put up the entire instructional day. But we made the decision to stick with what we have presently in place, because that's in our handbook. That's what our students already know, but they know a change may be coming based on state mandate. We have found, and I just want to put this on your radar, that we're having to work with some students, and Ms. Burton is working very closely with these. We have some diabetic children who use their cell phone app to monitor blood sugar. And so we're having to work out some things with that. We also were using a cell phone app with some of our ML students. And so I just want to put that on your radar, because if a child comes home and tells their parent, well, so-and-so got to have their phone out in class, that there are some kids who are legitimately, we're having to work out some ways for them to be able to monitor their sugar. Our elementary schools, can't talk tonight, some of our elementary students, the nurses have had iPads to help monitor their sugar also, and we are now making those available to middle and high school nurses And with parent permission, they can add where, actually in the nurse's office, if something spikes on that child's app, with parent permission, they can help monitor that too. So I just want to make you aware, there are some things we're having to work out with that policy. And I don't want any parent to assume that if a child got out their phone in the presence of a teacher and the teacher didn't correct them, they probably have a legitimate health reason they had to get that phone out. Going to the next, y'all have any questions about cell phones? Once the state finalizes that, I'll bring that to the policy committee and we'll go through our normal process. Of course, in our elementary schools, I also added there what, we encourage them not to bring any personal items to school because, elementary kids, they'll get lost. But same thing and the other thing I've stressed with principals is let's have our teachers be role models. And they need to keep their cell phones up as much as possible during the day too. And the real thing I stress is if you're on hall duty or lunch duty, our staff members don't need to be sitting there with their phones scrolling through things and looking at email or whatever. So I've asked them to, and from what I've seen the first week of school, I think that their staff has stepped up to the plate and been a better role model. I've also, if I'm just going into the school for 15 or 20 minutes, I leave my phone in the car and try to be a role model too. So just wanted to update you on that. The second point of emphasis, if you don't have any questions about cell phones, is just the information about the policy. Dylan, I think you have that as the letter from Halligan, Mahoney, and Williams. That is the letter that Kathy Mahoney sent, and this is the basis of the policy, comes straight from this that was sent to the policy committee. But I wanted to point out to you, when you read this, I was encouraged, we want to read it as two separate things. Okay, they fit together, but they're also separate. In the first part A, a nurse, counselor, teacher, principal, or any official of the staff shall not publicly or knowingly encourage or coerce a minor to withhold that they don't associate with the gender of their biological sex. So in saying that, basically we can't have any conversations with a child that says, okay, we won't tell your mama or your daddy. Okay, so that's one piece of it. Okay, the second piece of it is where we've really had to put something in place, and I think we've already written 3 letters home to parents. The principal, vice principal, or counselor shall immediately notify in writing a minor parent's or legal guardian if they assert that their gender is inconsistent with their sex defined at birth, or they request a school employee to address them using a pronoun or title that does not align with the minor's sex. Now, what we've done there is we've developed the form letter that's consistent district-wide, but they're also calling the parent first, because no parent should get that letter just cold turkey. And the 3 I think we've sent home, the parents were aware that the request was being made. Now, one thing with the law is we have to call them their legal biological based name, and we have to refer to them by the pronoun based on their biological gender. And so it's not like we're sending the letter home and can honor the request, quote unquote. It's our understanding of the law is you send the letter home and you continue to go with what aligns with their biological gender at birth. So that's really what the policy is. That's the background of it. The one question I made sure to clarify with Kathy Mahoney is because I don't want anybody to get this confused with mandated reporters, which teachers are mandated reporters. And so if they have abuse or something reported to them, they're liable to make the report. In this case, I think the teachers groups got involved and said teachers should not be calling parents or sending letters to parents about gender. That's why it is specific, principal, vice principal, or counselor. Now, if it comes to the teacher has to report it in that building, but it's those specific job titles that are actually responsible for carrying that out.
Thank you. Does the policy committee have anything to add?
I just have a question. How are we educating our teachers on following the guidance, just making sure that they're not referring to students in another pronoun or by a different name?
And what we did, we emphasized this at the administrative retreat this summer. And then our principals went back to their building, especially in middle and high. But I mean, this applies to elementary too, if it happens there and they have a letter. And so then the principals in those buildings had the conversations with their teachers and their guidance staff.
Okay, and just, one more question. How do we keep up with the letter's been sent home and maybe the student says that to another teacher? How would they know that the letter's already been sent home?
That's a great question, but I think, and to me, this is the check and balance of it. That teacher would not know, so they would report it according to their process, and then the principal or assistant principal could say, okay, we've already notified that parent, but you've done your due diligence in telling us, and that to me is the way they're handling it.
So just report, they just get.
Yeah, anytime they get it, unless they personally know, I've already reported this child, they've asked me again or whatever. But, and I'll ask too at the principal's meeting tomorrow, is there any internal way that they're sending notification to their teachers? They may have a process in place where they're saying, okay, a letter was sent to this parent or whatever, so that the teachers have a record. I just don't know because this is so new.
Okay. I know that when Mr. Baltonight and I were looking over the sample policy, it seems to cover everything. That's the intent of what the section code's pushing out. So we didn't have any objections to having it rewritten or changing it.
Any other questions, or I ask it, I assume this is a recommendation, it's not on here, but this is a recommendation from the committee, so it doesn't need a second. Is this a recommendation from the?
Policy committee recommends the policy.
Fantastic. Does anybody else have any other questions? All righty, all in favor? It's unanimous. Did you have anything else?
The only thing,
The appendix items?
of course, in your appendix items, I encourage you to look at the graduation information, and I just gave you a quick enrollment chart. I'll give you more specific, and we'll talk about it next month, but, 7-8 days into the school year, enrollment's still fluctuating. Right now, on paper, we're up about 99 students, but I think it'll settle out, and we'll really know what it looks like. I will tell you, I know some of you've gotten some concerns about the traffic at Star Elementary. One piece of that is, if you notice on the chart, last year's K-5 was 66, which was a little bit down. This year's K-5 is at 96. And you tend to get your younger kids are car riders. And so Star's number's also up about 20, but I think that's part of it. And Ashley and Officer Phillips and Dr. Nixon are looking at some different ways to move traffic in and out. But I think a lot of that is based on that increase in K-5 kids.
Fantastic. Thank you. Anybody have any questions about the appendix items?
Just have one quick question. How many students went into the cohort for the 2024 for the graduation summary?
I don't know that exact number, Hannah, but I can tell you at the appropriate time what I think our graduation rate's going to be.
You know what I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't think I can say it
Okay.
in open session right now because it's probably embargoed, but I can tell you what we think it's going to fall out at.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session. I have a motion from Mr. Watt and a second from Mr. Holbrook. All in favor? It's unanimous. We will enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters consistent with South Carolina Section Code 30-4-70.
Thank you.
I'll try to let you get it all out this morning. For a second.